Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour. Our aim is to share frank and honest discussion about real-world issues in project management, but do it in a way that's not too dry, though it might get a little salty sometimes.
Today, we have for you one of Kim's favorites, a project disaster, one in which several lessons weren't learned, including things like a irresponsible steering committee, an incredible number of customizations, and some stated lethal stakes. Kim, are you so excited to talk about this project with me today?
I'm so excited about this. We're going to talk about how this went from a great idea to streamline processes for some of our most important people in our community and turn into a government commission of inquiry headed by the Right Honorable Richard Noel Chesterman. Kate, today I've got a story for you from the land down under.
Ooh.
Rigged bids, fake deadlines, absolute utter incompetence. One of the biggest project disasters in the history of Australia.
I'm really excited about that. You love a project disaster. I should have known this story would be a project disaster.
This is going to be great. So this is going to be from the land down under, which is great. We have a lot of listeners in Australia, so this one is for you, and it's probably one that you're familiar with. Our subject is Queensland Health. That's the public healthcare provider for the Australian state of Queensland. They provide medical services, dental services to about 40,000 people in Australia across 300 different sites, and they employ about 85,000 people. And, you know, healthcare is kind of close to me. I got 3 kids that are nurses. And so when I started reading about this project disaster, Kate, I was like, it got me right here.
Were you imagining your kids suffering at the hands of this project?
I was imagining the fallout of my children. Yes, it was. I'm like, oh, these guys.
Oh, oof. Well, considering that I'm guessing this is not a nurse project, but that nurses would have been affected by the said badly handled project, I can only imagine the level of catastrophe.
It's so bad. When you work for somebody, there's a sacred agreement, right? You do work, and in exchange,
You get paid?
you get paid.
Oh, no. Kim, don't start with this.
You get paid, and you get paid what you're supposed to get paid when you're supposed to get paid.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Is this a payroll project?
It is another payroll project. So we'll set the stage here. So this system, kind of complicated, grew up over the years. They had 2 different payroll systems and kind of complicated, really manual. So kind of a pain in the butt, a lot of extra work to do this. And what makes it even more complicated is that there are different laws in place because this is public health care. There's different unions in place. They've got all these different roles, and all this stuff matrixed together means that there are over 24,000 unique combinations of payrolls, different rules and regulations for how payroll gets issued. You know, if you've got this, you've got that benefit. So really complicated.
Sorry, I just want to clarify this. This healthcare place serves 40,000 people, and there are 24,000 different ways you could get paid.
Government healthcare in action. That's what you get.
Okay.
But okay, that's the world that they're at. So they're not the only ones with this problem. So the Queensland state government says, you know what, this is way too complicated. Let's set a standard common payroll system for everybody. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that. And so they start looking at this. If we're going to do this, and then key event happens. So in 2005, to help move things along, Queensland Health gets notified by the payroll software that they currently use that said, by the way, 3 years, June 30th, 2008, our software, end of life.
Okay.
You got 3 years.
All right. That's decent runway for a government entity. That feels like enough time.
Decent runway. Flash forward, 2007. We should probably do something about this.
That was 2 out of their 3 years.
2 out of the 3 years is gone.
Oh my God. So 66% of the time, axed.
Queensland government has this like department called CorpTech, and their whole thing is they oversee these big projects. And they had successfully, well, they had done, we won't say successfully, they had done a payroll migration for their Department of Housing, Department of Justice. Kind of a mess though, because there are way too many vendors in those projects. Migrate them to the payroll system. So what do you think we should do? It's a mess because we have too many vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Next time, we'll just select one vendor.
Mm.
And they'll be responsible for the whole thing.
Okay.
So in September 2007, Department of Housing engages a consultant. His name is Terry Burns. I want you to remember that name, Kate. Terry Burns.
I feel like it's going to come up again and I don't have to remember it. So we'll see.
So they engage Terry Burns, and he runs a procurement process. They look at all the vendors. They select somebody. And in December 2007, they sign an agreement, a contract with IBM to implement this solution. Now, the original cost estimate for this project, 6.9 million Australian dollars. All the dollars I'm going to use are Australian. What do you think the contract was that they signed for?
Is it 6.9 million?
It was 98 million.
What? That's how many, that's like 20 times the cost. Not quite, but close, right?
Right.
15? Somewhere in there. 15 to 20 times the cost.
So in the intervening couple of years, when they started to look at this, they realized that their original estimate was based on the Department of Housing and Justice, which only had 1,300 employees each. They didn't think if I get 85,000 employees, it's going to be a lot more expensive. All right. The chaos starts immediately. Who do you think's in charge?
Well, first I'll guess Terry Burns.
No, he just helped with the procurement. He's out.
Just procurement. He's gone. Gone. Okay. So then we need to have just one person in charge of the project or like a sponsor?
No.
Is anyone in charge?
Well, the problem is everyone's in charge, so no one's in charge.
Everyone's in charge, so no one's in charge. Okay.
There's a solution design authority, which is part of this CorpTech department that runs the IT. The Queensland Health Enterprise Solution Transition Team.
Okay.
They're partially in charge. There is an executive steering committee.
These are reasonable so far. These are teams you would need to do a project like this. I'm on board.
You're right. These are all good bodies, but there wasn't any single structure that was a decision-making authority, single one. And so they was.
What was the job of the steering committee?
I don't know. Apparently they didn't really have the authority. And so this just goes around and around. So remember, they started RFP procurement in September 2007. They award the contract December 5th, 2007.
But the deadline is in 2008.
June 30th, 2008, the existing system goes gone.
So they have 6 months to get a $98 million contract done in government work
to support 85,000 people. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Lesson 1. Where were the project sponsors stopping and saying, hold up a minute? How are we going to do this massive project in 6 months?
I would guess that is a either project intake or project prioritization problem, that they did not have the ability to look at this project and say, we're going to need 3 whole years to fix our busted payroll system, because this is one of those projects that is important, but not urgent, especially 3 years down the line. 3 years feels like an eternity. And then big companies, big government, this stuff is slow, but goes on for a long time. People lose sight of timelines, long timelines, quickly and easily.
So they go crazy. Literally, the phrase that their program used, and I'm going to quote, plan A or die. No, this is right from the materials. Plan A or die.
Like on a slide?
Yeah,
I love it.
This project is such a big fiasco. It is documented on hundreds of articles. And I don't want to spoil it, but the government report that came after the fact was 264 pages. So a lot of documentation here.
Ooh, okay. All right. Plan A or die. What was Plan A? What's in Plan A?
So Plan A is they're going to implement this software product. And I won't say what it is, but they were going to implement it. And they thought, we'll just do like for like. We don't need to fix any of these stupid processes. We know they're problematic. All we got to do is just make the new system act like the old one. No problem.
No problem. No problem. Kim, there's no problems here. What is this today, which is confusing and hard, should absolutely continue into the future. That's exactly, we should lift and shift. That was the phrase that I have used many times or heard many times, both in my career. Lift and shift, babe. Don't worry.
So early 2008, we start Plan A or die. And so we start with kickoff meeting, and then we go right into discovery and requirements gathering. Kate, how long do you think we gave these guys to do business requirements gathering for 24,000 unique pay combinations?
Well, we're lifting and shifting, baby. There's no problems here. We just have to say, do the same thing. So my prediction is they wrote, do the same thing, and did that over the course of a week?
2 weeks.
Okay, I was being generous.
They literally had 2 weeks to gather all the requirements for this $100 million project. And so they get the requirements, they start working. IBM starts submitting all of their scope documents. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it like this. We're going to do it like that. And they are a disaster. They're incomplete. They make no sense whatsoever. And what do you think the steering committee's response is?
That's fine.
It's Plan A or die. We have a deadline coming. It's going to happen. We're going to do it. So their whole thing is they just want to get this thing done. They're going to slam it in. They're going to make it over this deadline no matter what. And so rather than fix processes, they end up ready for this, 2,500 custom software configurations.
So I have a question there. Is that a lot of configurations or a little bit of configurations?
It is ridiculous, the amount of configuration.
Yeah.
It's so complex. It's unstable from the very beginning. There's no way this thing can stably operate. Clock is ticking. May comes and goes. Now we're in June.
June is the deadline.
Lesson 2. If you've got a deadline, question the deadline. This is part of our first 5 questions. We get to June 30th. And you know what happens?
I don't.
June 30th,
Change request.
nothing happens. They keep running on the old system, and it's fine. It turns out that the legacy vendor didn't want to support them indefinitely, so they just sort of picked the date and said, yeah, we're done at this date. So when the date came and went, they said, well, okay, we can just negotiate some extended support. So it was a completely fake date that didn't mean anything.
I'm so spicy because I'm like, it's fake and it's not fake,
Yep.
right? Because when you get something that's at end of life, I mean, that's sort of like going into hospice care with like sort of like a DNR, you know? Like when something hits end of life, it's a risk to the business. This is a business critical system. So I don't think it's fair to say that nothing happened because they're negotiating an extra contract. But at the same time, I feel like the risk shoots up dramatically because somebody at that legacy vendor is over it and does not want to support this anymore. So now there's one person at that legacy vendor that knows how this works. And if they ever leave the company, then the person who knows the configuration for this business is going to be screwed. So I'm like, it's not like nothing happened. I don't know if that risk was correctly communicated, but it's not like nothing happened, I think is where I sit in hearing this happening.
And you're absolutely right. The problem was that they didn't ask the questions up front. It didn't say, well, okay, what does this mean when we're out of time? Do we have an option to get extended support?
Yeah.
And importantly, because they were in such a rush to meet this deadline, they completely half-assed the first part of the project. They spent 2 weeks in requirements gathering. The executive steering committee accepted a whole bunch of incomplete and bad documentation and planning from the vendor. And so by the time they get to this point and they notice they've already set the path, and the steering committee says, well, we've got momentum. We've just got to just get that extra little bit, just get done and get live. And so they keep churning and just trying to get it right, trying to get it to work right, doing more configuration, more customization. They start UAT testing in June of 2009.
Cool.
They spent another year churning, burning, struggling, trying to get this stuff to work. So they finally say, that's it. June 2009, we're going to go with UAT. How many defects do you want to guess that they had?
I don't know, maybe, so there were 2,400 unique configurations.
24,000.
Oh my God, 24,000 unique configurations?
Yep.
That's too many. Sorry, earlier you said 2,400.
Oh, did I? Oh, then I was wrong. It was 24,000 different payroll
Okay.
rules.
Yeah, I was like 2,400. I don't know if that's too many or too little. 24,000 is too many. That is too many. So, well, if there were 24,000 unique configurations, there has to be a minimum of 24,000 bugs.
It was 2,400 defects. That's 2,400. This is after the vendor does their testing and hands it over to the customer and says, hey, we're ready to go. Just test it. They found 2,422 defects. And these are severe defects.
So these are just the severe defects. That's the thing, right? Every defect goes through its own triage. And so just the severe ones, there were 2,400. But at like whatever their ranking system is, there has to be literally thousands more.
Exactly. And so it's so scary that in July of 2009, the steering committee says that's too many defects. So they forced a large percentage of those high severity defects into lower severity defects, just so there'd be just enough green on their dashboards to proceed with the project.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there a term for this where we're pretending things are fine? Because everybody's been through this. I feel like I've never heard the buzzword for it. Do you know what it is?
I've heard the term watermelon project, where they're green on the outside and red on the inside.
That's like an updated version of lipstick on a pig, right?
Yeah, I think so. And so in late 2009, this is so bad, Brett Cowan, who's in charge of the UAT phase. So this is UAT when this stuff is supposed to be pretty clean. And he's like, look, guys, and this is what he says, this testing is not designed or intended to reveal defects, and particularly not functional or integration defects, the things that ought to have been caught way earlier than this.
Yeah. Yeah. When companies cut QA, whenever they cut their internal testing, their unit testing cycles, and everything falls on UAT, that's an unreliable, bad way to manage testing. You can't be like, the users will catch it. That's not what that's for. Everything is supposed to be done and ready. And your users say, wow, thanks for making something so nice for me. I'm ready to receive it. That's the point of UAT testing.
Lesson 3, test it.
There's multiple types of testing on a big project with 24,000 unique configurations. It's time to test, and to test robustly.
And so this goes on. Testing, defects, fix, test, find defects, fix. This goes on and on through the end of 2009. Now we're into early 2010. And the frontline payroll staff, they're the ones doing the UAT. And every time they're like, fail, fail, fail. And how do you think the executive steering committee finally responded?
Did they watermelon it? Did they say, just do it anyways?
They removed the requirement for business sign-off on testing. They said, you guys don't actually need to approve this.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay, so I have a question. They say that. And how was that documented? Was that documented in a decision log? Like how was that documented?
What I'm reading here came out of the audit that came after the fact.
Okay. I wonder if they know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Lesson 4. We haven't even gotten to the impact of this thing, but I know without a doubt that if you did not document that your steering committee decided that you don't need business sign-off on a business critical piece of functionality by the people who know how to get people paid, they need to accept the risk associated with this.
Yep.
And if they don't want to do risk mitigation planning for it either, all of that needs to be documented in the appropriate places.
I think part of this goes to the lack of clarity on roles and responsibilities. This steering committee decided they had the authority to do it, so they just did it.
I mean, it seems like they have some amount of authority. It's just that their judgment is bad.
Yeah. So they say, yeah, we passed, and we're coming up on the go line.
Nothing has changed. Yes, we've passed. Oh my God.
There are two things. There was mention or consideration for a continuity plan. So if the system doesn't work, what do we do? And they decided we're not going to do that. You know why?
Okay, so they decline like mitigation planning. They decline risk planning.
They declined continuity planning because it was plan A or die.
No, it's just payroll. Nobody has to die.
And also the software vendor said, you know what you should do though when you go live is you should do one pay period side by side. You should run both systems to make sure the numbers add up. And they said, no, we don't need to do that.
Lesson 5. When you have an ancient legacy system and you're putting in a new system, do a side-by-side run that alpha tests the new system at the same time as the legacy system. It is so hard to leapfrog and make big, giant jumps, and your projects are at gigantic risk if you don't try to do both things at once. It is almost impossible to shut down something old and ancient and just start something brand new well. It's just not how technology works. So always, always, always do this. And if your sponsors or your steering committee say no, document, 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 document. Or escalate. I would escalate. I'd escalate. I would be escalating. I would be escalating at this point. I don't have anything to lose. I'd be like, you guys don't care about paying thousands of people. Okay, noted. I'm just going to go tell your bosses that. And if there were no bosses, I would just document it.
March 2010, the system goes live. Instantly, the system generates 35,000 payroll anomalies.
That's more than their configurations.
The final chaos is absolute. The system incorrectly calculates $400 million worth of accidental overpayments.
Overpayments.
Nurses, doctors, CNAs, admin staff, many of them are way overpaid, and eventually it's clawed back in a very painful way. Many of those employees get $0 paychecks.
Oh, no. So we have people who are being overpaid and then people who are being paid $0.
Yep. Some are overpaid, some are underpaid. Some of them have zero pay slips. The ones that are accidentally overpaid are harassed by aggressive debt collectors assigned by the government to claw back their money.
Oh, no.
The healthcare workforce is thrown into utter financial panic. They start to have churn. It is a disaster.
Yeah. See, I just want to say that my lesson 5, I knew. You didn't have to tell me. I knew this would happen. Repeating lesson 5, when you have an old legacy system, you have to do it in parallel with your current system and validate for sure that it all works before you really, truly go live with it. This sounds miserable.
And so when a sophisticated system like payroll is broken, what does an organization like this do? You build a shadow system to fix the first system. The state went and had to hire 1,000 staff to manually fix and keep the payroll system just barely running, which ended up resulting in a 40% increase in human labor over the old legacy system.
Lesson 6, how to document the potential impact of a risk being realized. Something that we don't capture well is this could increase costs. That tends to be what we say. We say things like, this could increase costs. We might have to maintain the system for longer. We don't say things like maintaining a legacy system could double the OpEx and headcount required to support a legacy system if we aren't off this system in time. If we think back to them in 2005, waiting 2 years and doing nothing, as far as we can tell, and then starting at the end of 2007 / the beginning of 2008 with 6 months to go, right? Like at that point, they already needed to be budgeting to do this, is what they needed to do because of how badly this is.
And the chaos goes on. And so with these exploding, ballooning costs, they brought in KPMG to do an independent audit, and they had found out that they had not spent $100 million on this.
Of course they hadn't. That's too little.
They spent $400 million.
$400 million.
But wait, the new operational processes, all the complexity, the team that's needed to manually run the automation that they had put in over the next 5 years, their estimate was the total cost to Queensland taxpayers would be an astonishing $1.25 billion.
That's so much money.
This is such a disaster, an ongoing disaster. There is public outcry. It's in the news. The government goes bananas and they initiate a commission of inquiry in December of 2012. And they put in charge of it the Right Honorable Richard Noel Chesterman, former judge of the Supreme Court of Queensland, decorated Reserve Squadron leader for the Royal Australian Air Force. And do you know what he finds in this inquiry?
Tell me.
Do you remember our buddy Terry Burns?
Ooh, coming back. The villain is revealed. Is this what's happening? What could go wrong?
Terry Burns, if you recall, was the consultant put in charge of selecting the vendor, and he selected IBM. Do you want to guess where old Terry used to work?
Did Terry come from IBM? Terry, my boy, do you work at IBM? Are all your buds out at IBM?
Terry was an IBMer. His buddies were IBMers. All his chums were IBMers. It's uncovered through emails and correspondence that not only did he favor IBM, he did things like he offered exclusive dry runs of their presentation.
Ooh.
One of their top competitors, Accenture, Terry somehow got a hold of their bid specs and handed them over to IBM so IBM could see how Accenture was bidding it and significantly underbid Accenture to win the deal.
Okay. This is some shady stuff, Terry.
Oh, it gets better. So the committee to select the vendor, they were, despite all that, they were still leaning towards Accenture because they had the better solution. IBM had never done the solution like this. So Burns went on a campaign to browbeat and aggressively pressure the panel to redo their scores over and over and over again until the numbers started to sway in IBM's favor.
Lesson 7. Never pick the vendor who's never done it before. Never pick that vendor, ever.
Never. Lesson 8 is when you're selecting a vendor, you've got to do it above board, and you've got to make sure people are playing above board, or this is exactly the kind of shenanigans that are going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, these are all big name, big companies, like there'd be a part of me that would be like, I bet IBM could do it. But if they've never done it, unless you have a long runway or you have a well-sponsored project, like in general, it is a gigantic risk to do something with someone who's never done it before. There's just such a learning curve, and you are paying that company that you're hiring to learn. And sometimes that's a great opportunity, and other times it's not worth the risk. And on things like payroll, it's typically not worth the risk, not at that scale.
And when you consolidate down to one vendor like these guys did, they used to have a bunch of vendors. And if you're going to consolidate down to one vendor, it is so important to be correct and above board when you select that vendor and build a good relationship, or you're going to get absolutely taken advantage of, just like the state of Queensland.
Yeah. Oof.
There's a bit of a postscript, though.
Read it to me.
So the government said, IBM, you were so shady on this, we're going to take you to court.
Okay, good.
And so they took IBM to court. They sued their pants off. They said, you lied about what you could do. You rigged the bid. And so therefore, you were liable for this billion-dollar fiasco. In April of 2016, the court dismissed the case against IBM.
Ooh, spicy. Why?
They didn't find that IBM was innocent at all. What happened was that during this whole time of chaos, when there's change orders, no, it's going to cost more, it's going to cost more, there's a flurry of documentation. IBM is sending change orders and revised addendums and contract addendums. In the small print of one of these addendums was a release which waived all of the government's right to sue by IBM for any conduct that occurred during the tendering process.
In one change order?
They slipped in the small print and absolved IBM completely. And the court found, sorry, state, you signed your rights away when you signed this document.
Oh, infuriating.
Lesson 9, have your lawyers review the small print.
Yes. Every time.
So in wrapping up, I'm going to read a quote from the Right Honorable Chesterman on how he summed up this project.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Before the initiation by the Queensland government of major projects, specific attention must be given to what lessons may be learned from this project or any project under consideration. He goes on to say that for any project, an appropriate structure to oversee large projects, including relevant individuals with skills in project management, as well as the power to make inquiries and report to senior officials as necessary. And finally, what I have in mind is the appointment of a project manager or project managers to each large procurement or implementation. What is essential is that the project managers be qualified, experienced, and competent in the science of project management and be employed specifically to perform that role with respect to each large project. I applaud you, Right Honorable Chesterman.
I feel like there were project managers that were on this project who were not very well qualified.
There were no project manager. They couldn't have been.
There absolutely could have been, but they may not have been strategic. His note about making sure that they are qualified, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't think they were enough. I don't think they were strong. That brings me to lesson 9, which would be, it's okay if you're in over your head to ask for help and to document that you need some help. Yeah, there have been projects I've been put on earlier in my career when I was like, I don't think I'm qualified for that. But I didn't know that then. I just thought that I had to do everything. And I had these like really big blind spots and everything was crushing. So if you feel like that, it could be that you're in a position that you're not quite qualified for. And I don't mean that to say like, you can't do it. It's like, reach out and get the support you need. Often there's just too much on your plate because there's not enough people to get all the work done. And that is a sign of being a project leader.
It really is. Having that macro view and being enough of an adult to say, look, I can't do this myself. We need to get some help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not possible to manage something this big all by yourself. So it could be that there was one and that person was junior. You know, like that's a common thing. Like, we're going to put a little baby PM on this. No big deal. It's just a payroll thing. 24,000 unique configurations. One project manager could never have handled all that.
Yeah. And there's so much more to this story. There's so many more lessons. I could have made this an 8-hour episode, but we'll give you some links so you can read up on it. It is absolutely fascinating. And if you are one of our listeners in Australia, I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. Comment, and we'd like to hear some more about your perspective on these.
Yeah. Yeah. And more power to those of you who did work on this project. I believe that you did your best and that there was not enough of you and that potentially there wasn't any clear avenues for you to get the things done that you needed to and tried to get done, because this is dumpster fire of a project.
It really is. And it's really saddening just to think of the ultimate impact to the healthcare workers, the frontline people that are trying to take care of us and our community and not getting paid or getting hounded because you got accidentally overpaid and it wasn't your fault. That's the tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about our lessons, right? In a different world, right? If there had been a clear project intake process or a good project prioritization process within the government healthcare organization, this project could have been prioritized sooner.
Yeah.
If it was prioritized sooner, there could have been more time for many of these things, in particular for testing and for requirements gathering. Both of those almost go hand in hand. You get better requirements gathering, could have done 6 months instead of 2 weeks, and then could have added in a far more robust testing phase prior to UAT, which would have helped. There would have been more time to correctly design the system so you didn't have to lift and shift. You could have done some improvements if you started 3 years beforehand and been able to simplify and then had that testing time to be able to see that through differently. This project could have been so differently managed because a lot of the lessons were related to bad sponsors saying things like, we'll just accept that risk. But like no risk was really accepted. Either the taxpayers are paying, the government's paying, they go into court over it, right? Like the decisions that were made, somebody has to pay for the risks that were realized. And so in accepting that, oh, we don't need it. We don't need your sign off. We don't need to worry about this. We can just go forward. Like everybody else is impacted by that. And so I view that as the overall bad leadership that was on this project, really bad project sponsorship. But it's important to note that like, you know, with different leadership that brought this up sooner, gave the team time to actually work through it, and then allowed the true testing time to be there, this project would have been far, 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 far more successful rather than being the absolute dumpster fire that it is. And considering in 2005, they said like, hey, you're supposed to do this. And in 2016 is whenever we're getting the court reading back. You know, I don't know if they've completed this migration or if it's still just, you know, billions of dollars of mess for them.
Yeah, I mean, just making basic business decisions. It's if you realizing they had a short time frame, that they had this deadline, they could have saved money by saying, hey, vendor, why don't you give me extended support for another 2 years? Here's $100 million to do that. They would have ended up $1 billion ahead, you know, almost $1 billion.
Yeah. And it is wild to consider that they thought they could budget $6 million for a $100 million project that cost them $1 billion. Like, look at the way, how quickly that escalated. So what I would recommend to anybody who's working on a similar project is to reference this as a case study. Sometimes it's really hard whenever you're a project manager and you're trying to be like, dude, this could go so bad. Reference it as a case study. Let's say, you know, if you're doing something that has a legacy system, if you're doing something that's scaling, right? Oh, we've done this before for 5,000 people. Now we're doing it for 20,000 people, right? You can reference case studies. And I think this is a great one to reference if you're trying to get a point across, because most people can't imagine that things would go so badly. We're sort of optimists in that way. But being able to say, oh, yeah, but I think we have some similarities here, and bringing this up and saying, you know, because of these similarities, I would budget that we're going to need an extra $100 million for this project. But that gives you some legs to stand on rather than just your own gut feel. Even though, babes, I'm here to tell you, your gut feel is right. We've been doing this for a long time, we know. But this is a more effective way to have that conversation.
It does. That's a great point, too. This is a really great study for a lot of projects that are out there. A lot of the same common problems everybody faces on similar projects, not to this extent necessarily. But yeah, bringing in reference to a case study like this can help with some of those discussions. But ultimately, if your project options are plan A or die, maybe sometimes the best option is die.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you liked our show, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes or wherever you get our podcast. Your review really does mean a lot. And if you want to check out our membership site and all of our cool content there, you can check that out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. If you want to talk to us directly about project management, PM consulting, training, or whatever, our contact info is on our website under About Your Hosts, or you can just hit us up on our Facebook site at PM Happy Hour. You'll find we're really pretty easy to get a hold of there. And that's it for today. Good luck with your projects, and we hope to catch you again at the next PM Happy Hour. Cheers.